Hey guys, welcome to yet another Fanfic Friday video, a series where we take, write, and read fanfictions based on your suggestions and some of our own. What we do is we take 3 hats and we put characters, locations, and scenarios into each of the individual hats. So one hat has nothing but characters, one hat has nothing but locations, and the other hat has nothing but scenarios. And then we draw one of each at random, actually 2 characters, because you can't have one character. Well, you can have one character, but it'd be a pretty boring fanfic. But we take 2 characters, 1 location, and 1 scenario, and we try and tell a coherent story with these 3 elements picked completely at random. But yeah, we do this every week, and I hope you enjoyed this week's Fanfiction Friday. Check it out.
The following fanfics are based on existing properties. We do not own the rights to the characters or the locations associated with them. These stories are intended to be non-profit and are written for fun only. Each author was randomly assigned 2 characters, a location, and a scenario. Each contestant was given 30 minutes to finish their story. What follows is the shocking results.
Hello. This week, I got Drax and Brack. Drax from Guardian of the Galaxy and Brack from the Brack Show / Space Ghost / Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I don't know if those technically count as 2 separate things. I suppose they do. The location is Mordor, and the scenario suggested by Patui is pretending not to be gay. I apologize in advance, but I couldn't help myself for this, so I hope you enjoy it. The thick black smoke rising into the skies did not incite any feelings of foreboding or unease in Drax. He had been across the galaxy and seen more than anyone of normal origin could imagine, and Drax was aware that the human brain could conceive of quite a bit. The almost exaggeration of the truth should go to prove the span of what exactly had crossed Drax's vision. The world around him simply was the way it had been created. No, the only thing that caused Drax any semblance of emotion was his rather strange traveling partner. "Oh, look at that there!" cried the red and black humanoid cat thing. "That little black cloud looks like a little black bean! Hello, black bean! It's me, your old pal Drac. Now I knows we ain't been seeing each other much, but..." "Brack!" Drax grunted impatiently, standing beside the thing that accompanied him as he chattered to a cloud that could not hear him and would most likely dissipate soon. "It cannot hear you. Please stop speaking to it." "Oh, but look at how cute it is," Brack insisted, pointing in the direction of the cloud. "It's a shapeless, concentrated mass of ash." "Well, can't argue with that," Brack shrugged. "You're just a big, intimidating dude, so as I wanted to make it look like I was friends with a wide variety of people. Who you know has no influence on my opinion of you." Drax shook his head, rolling his eyes as he grabbed the wrist of the Catman thing beside him to pull him forward. "Let us go." Were Drax more observant, he might have noticed the red of Brack's face darken at the touch, but it was soon gone once Brack recovered from his senses. If that were possible. "I do not know why we were told that it was impossible to simply walk into Mordor," Drax remarked as he dragged his companion behind him, who chittered in fright at the sputtering mountains in the distance. "I guess all those men you slaughtered 5 minutes ago must have come up and scared those guys you talked to before real good." I don't know what's going on with his voice. I apologize. I don't know. "You were so fast, and your muscles started getting all shiny from their blood. It was real nice." The Catman thing sighed in an almost dreamy way before clearing his throat awkwardly. "You know, for a man." "I do not understand why you allow yourself to be so distracted," Drax said, frustration peeking through the gruffness in his voice. "You have traveled the galaxy as well, have you not? This should be nothing of note." "Oh, I have seen much in my time, Draxarino," Brack said, making up a nickname for him on the spot. Drax had stopped being puzzled by them after being called Adrax, Draxpool, Jurdraxic Park, Benny and the Drax, Princess Draxaries, Draxarilla Cheese, and too many others for Drax to be expected to keep track of. "And can I tell you something?" The Catman thing stopped, tugging his wrist and pulling Drax to face him. "I ain't never seen someone like you, Drax-a-doodle-doo." The green and black eyes stared into his own. Drax felt a heat in his ears for an unspecified reason. "You is incredible. The way you killed all them bad guys and kept saying we gotta walk around here. Which, I don't know why we're doing that. We should probably at least make up a reason. It's real amazing, though." Drax held the other's gaze for a moment longer. "Well, you know, for a guy." Brack turned his eyes to the ground. Drax hooked Brack's chin under his hand, bringing his eyes back up. "Brack,
I was not aware that you felt that way,
Drax said, his voice softening.
In truth, I too find many of your attributes to be pleasing. The way you screamed as I murdered those men reminded me of my favorite song. I do not understand metaphors, but I understand that this meeting has changed our lives. Forever.
Brack's anime eyes wobbled, betraying his emotions. I'm so glad you think so, Curb Your Enthusiasm. I didn't want to say nothing because I didn't think that you could feel the same way that I do.
Just as with almost every other thing we have talked about, you are wrong,
Drax said.
There is no way I could not think of you as anything less than a lover.
The men drew together, lips brushing delicately. Brack was soft. Was this fur? Drax tried not to think about it too hard and instead slipped his hand behind Brack's skull, dipping him low to deepen the kiss as a nearby volcano exploded. Brack's eyes whipped open, the darkened silhouette of his room there to greet him familiarly as he gazed down and saw the result of his dream poking at the covers. He rolled to his side, arms sliding around the strong and muscular chest of his bed partner.
Is everything okay?
Drax murmured through sleep. Brack nodded, closing his eyes against Drax's warm skin. Just thinking about the day we met. Do you have any idea how fucking hard it is to read a story out loud where the main characters' names are Brack and Drax? It's hard. It's hard.
Okay, my characters were Rocket Raccoon, House from the show House, MD, I think it's called, or it could just be called House. He is an MD. That's about the extent of my knowledge about House. So going into this fanfic, I was already confused and lost, and I didn't know what to do with him, but I decided to take the 3 pieces of information I knew, which was that he is a doctor, his name is House, and he's grumpy, and I told a story with that. And House was suggested by the Chibi Fangirl, so thank you, the Chibi Fangirl, for confusing me. The location is a movie theater, and the scenario, which was the really evocative part that I ended up not really using until the very end, was finding a secret. Finding out about a secret suggested by Random Comment. And yes, that was their name. It's not just a random comment. It's a very specific comment posted by a guy called Random Comment. And so I'm telling a story about those. I called this one Elementary, My Dear Groot. And if you want to check it out, you can read all of our fanfics in the archive of our own account that we have linked in the description. So check that out while you're listening to me tell a story. House finished placing his cane underneath his seat and prepared to get as close to comfortable as these poorly maintained movie theater chairs allowed. The floors were thick with the spillings of the summer blockbuster season. House had witnessed innumerable gruesome surgeries performed on the human anatomy, but none of that made his skin crawl the way a well-used movie theater floor could. He grumbled to himself as the oppressive atmosphere of teenagers and couch movie critics surrounded him. He'd been accused of being cynical, but one trip to a movie's opening weekend was enough to justify his glass-half-empty attitude. Here folks sat in a dark room with 3D glasses over their regular glasses, happily having forked over exorbitant amounts of cash for a hot dog and a soda, filing in so that they can have their fill of mass-marketed entertainment for 120 minutes. March in, be entertained, march out. It was bleak at best, and this was supposed to be the fun part. He felt the hairs on the back of his neck bristle with irritation, and he felt more than saw the people taking up residence behind him in the dark of the theater. The previews had already started, and House had already rolled his eyes a total of 13 times in the space of 5 minutes, halfway toward his personal record. From somewhere behind him, he heard the sounds of families complaining. "Can your friend scoot down? Come on, you gotta be kidding! How are we supposed to see?" "Hey, come on, we paid for our seats just like everybody else." A new voice, this one drenched in bravado, with all the eloquence of an old cudgel. "You got a problem with my bud, you got a problem with me. And if you got a problem with me, you got a problem with this here Flargon plasma assault rifle. And I really don't think you want to have problems with this top-of-the-line doodad." House's brow ceased wrinkling for but a moment, and he did something he rarely voluntarily chose to, turned around so that he could face another human being. Except that when he did so, he found he wasn't looking at another human being. Quite the opposite, in fact. He was looking into the beady eyes of a raccoon. A raccoon in a jumpsuit. "You're not a human being," House said blankly, and mostly to aggravate the narrator for stealing one of his better lines. "You're quite the opposite. You're a raccoon in a jumpsuit." 10 out of 10 for observation, darling. Rocket Raccoon spat back, offering a box of small popcorn, which appeared impressively large in the raccoon's tiny appendages, to the fellow sitting next to him, who just so happened to be a tall, anthropomorphic tree. So why is that the opposite? Come again? House swallowed, attempting to maintain his steel composure that was his trademark, while watching a plant stuff buttered popcorn into his wooden lips. Why is what the opposite? Raccoon. Human. What's opposite about those things? Rocket droned, kicking his adorable feet up onto the back of House's chair. House scowled to no effect. This raccoon had obviously dealt with tougher opponents than House's mood. Hell, whole reason I'm here is because Quill told me to take in some of these here primitive moving pictures you guys have. Said it'd make me understand you human beings guys a bit more. Makes me miss holo technology. The girls gazonga stick out like nobody's business. House was going to reach for his cane and chase the bizarre hybrid creatures out of the movie theater, no doubt to rapturous applause from the families who had to sit behind the tree, when he caught a glimpse of the enormous projectile weapon that the raccoon was cradling beneath his medium Dr. Pepper. Nothing. They're not. Opposite, I mean. No. House shrank back into his theater chair and cursed silently as he felt the raccoon's tiny paws kicking the back of his seat. It was the worst of both an airplane experience and a movie theater experience crossed with an episode of The Twilight Zone. In a way, he was blessed. Wilson was going to get hours of entertainment out of this story. Look at these stupid things! Rocket gestured wildly at the enormous IMAX screen in front of them. I feel like I gotta squint to even know what's happening. House cringed and bit his tongue. Look at those cheap effects. Don't they know in space you can't hear no explosions or laser fire, whatever they're supposed to be? Highly inaccurate. I am Groot, spoke the tree in a deep guttural voice. House wondered if the tree was trying to introduce itself to him. Either way, he chose not to respond in kind. You got a point there, Rocket agreed with his botanic brother. Your insight into the history of galactic cinema never ceases to impress me, Groot, old buddy. The film started up and House breathed a sigh of relief, assuming it would silence the commentary he was being exposed to under duress. It did not. By the time the logo for Sherlock Holmes 3 Moriarty's Revenge came upon the screen, House was on the verge of exploding upon the two in the peanut gallery. Sherlock? What kind of name is that? And that's coming from someone whose best friend is called Groot. No offense, pal. I am Groot. Good to hear. House stood up at once, just as the titular character made his first appearance on screen. He was going to perform one of two actions. The first option was to turn around and throttle the assault rifle out of the talking raccoon's clutches, gunning them down where they sat and letting their guts spill onto the floor, making it only slightly less clean than it already was. The other option was just to leave and download the film illegally. Sure, it would hurt the industry, but after tonight, House felt like the industry owed him. Wait, look! Isn't that? Rocket cried out, pointing past House and up at the movie screen. House turned also and focused upon the face of Robert Downey Jr. as the character of Sherlock Holmes. Another phenomenal performance, no doubt. That's... what's his name? Stark! Tony Stark, yeah! Don't be ridiculous, House began, but the more he looked, the more he noticed. Yes, Robert Downey Jr.'s face and Tony Stark's held a lot in common. Too much, in fact, for it to be a coincidence. No, he thought. It could not be a coincidence. Quite the opposite, in fact. That's no coincidence, House declared to the room full of people who were already throwing popcorn at him to get him to sit down. Quite the opposite, in fact. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. The audience fell to a hushed silence. Only one voice spoke in quiet awe of House's revelation. I am Groot. Very poignant.
All right, so for this week, I got BB-8, Iron Man, A Sleazy Hotel, which was recommended by Raiju Folger, and At a Court Hearing After Destroying the City. All right, if we just approach this in a calm and rational way, I'm sure we can not make this worse than it already is, Iron Man said to the courtroom full of people. Mr. Stark, I would prefer that you not wear your suit in the courtroom. Is there any way you can refrain from wearing it in here? The judge asked politely, knowing he was not likely to get the answer he wanted. No can do, I'm afraid. Most of the time a city gets destroyed, it usually has something to do with this guy. He pointed a finger to his chest, indicating the suit. Well, at least you came. Your track record for showing up to these official proceedings seems to be getting better, Tony, the judge said, looking over the suit carefully. The real Tony Stark was holed up in a hotel that was called Guff's, and was situated so far from a town in the mountains that the only cars that passed were usually lost by several miles. He guessed that the judge knew he wasn't actually on location, but as long as the hearing didn't end in arrest, that it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Of course, he wasn't really sure how to explain everything, seeing as he was only present for the tail end of the battle that was being waged, which he wasn't at fault for. "So tell me again, little guy, because I may have misunderstood some parts of the story," Stark said while steepling his fingers to look at the small, round, orange and white robot in front of him. "Weep bop, boop, beep, wah." I can't do that forever. Right, beep, weep bop. That is astounding and completely unintelligible to me. So if you could show me the footage you recorded, since I've already told you I can't understand you, that would be just swell. "What?" the little round droid said indignantly before bringing up a scan of a large ship sitting just outside of orbit. It fired multiple shots at the little robot while he bobbed and weaved a hair's width away from each shot before they passed and knocked him forward with each successive blast. The extra boost in movement had him flying several feet forward at a time, rolling along buildings and shooting out and recalling grappling hooks that helped him swing forward. The problem was that the massive ship above was completely out of sight to anyone in the city, so for all they knew, it was just another alien attack. "I know a guy that likes to travel by swinging. You two would hit it off." "Wheat-bee?" the robot beeped excitedly. "And what do you have to say, Mr. Stark?" the judge said loudly, making it obvious he had already said it once before. "Yeah, but let's deal with this first." Stark turned with his headset on and opened his arms wide, saying, "I do, for sure, it's..." "What did they say?" Tony asked. "Well, they accused you of having a breakdown and destroying the city, and we're wondering if that's what happened or if you have a better explanation," the judge said with an eyebrow cocked as hard as it could be. "Very good. Right. So, this is some big secret shield stuff, and I can't just blab about it right away, so we probably need a recess or something so that I can let you know what I have clearance to talk about and all that," Stark stammered. "So this is not due to your mental instability?" the judge questioned. "Nope, no, not at all. I just don't know what I can say, and can you just give me 15 minutes? Stark was starting to get annoyed as the little robot kept trying to cheer him on every few words with a cheerful, "Beep boo!" "I'll allow it," the judge said tiredly. "A 15-minute recess," the judge said as he slammed down his hammer. "Okay, little buddy. Big ship, lots goes boom, then what?" Stark said, averting all attention to the little robot. More footage began to play, showing a few more blasts, taking out most of a suburban town before Stark showed up in his suit. "Yes, then I came, and you got shot at 2 more times, then I grab you, and then we both get shot at, and somehow the only person who sees anything thinks it's my fault, and that you're somehow a droid I can control. Very good, but that doesn't tell me what happened to the big ship, or why it was after you, or approximately how much danger I'm still in. Right now." The little round robot took sound clips from a variety of voices to make up the words. "I'm BB-8. The First Order is after me, and they're not good people. This would have been great to hear 2 days ago when I first picked you up in that city. We crash-landed here on the way to meet an old friend. My ride will likely be here soon. I can't help you with the city. I can only show you what happened. Is this world in danger then? Why are they after you? Should I even be helping you?" Stark was realizing that this unassuming little robot could be the bad guy. It was about that time that a great rumbling could be heard outside. "Great! Now I get to find out," Stark grumbled as he rose to his feet. "Excuse me!" A voice boomed so loud that his earpiece peeked out. The judge was staring at the suit with angry eyes. "Yes, your highnessness," Stark said gracefully. "If we call for a recess and you stand completely still for 4 minutes, I have a feeling I'm talking to a tin can." "Where the hell are you, Stark?" the judge said, a vein showing prominently. "I've got to," he started to say before noticing the little robot had rolled out of the hotel room, and a large flying craft was outside with its hatch open. No, he said as he ran from the room following after him. "Stark!" the judge yelled, sounding muffled as Stark left the room with his headset still on. As he got down the flight of stairs to the pool area the ship was hovering above, he saw the little robot roll up to an older woman who exclaimed, "BB-8, you really shouldn't try to go too far with those test ships. She stopped as she noticed the man standing in front of the ship. "Listen," she said sternly. "Just tell your friends it was aliens. Can't have a whole planet go crazy over one crash landing." "Roswell, 1947. It's not gonna go well," Stark said in a huff, realizing his best explanation was about to leave, and his suit wasn't handy. "They're after us, not you, so no worries. We already took care of them." "Is that supposed to make me feel better? Because that doesn't make me feel better," Stark said with some measure of sass. "Well, it'll have to do," she snapped. "Say goodbye to the grumpy man, BB-8, she said as she turned to walk away. "Goodbye to the grumpy man, BB-8, BB-8 replied, using the sound clip of the older woman's voice as the hatch door closed and they began to fly off. "That's great," Stark said, taking off his headset. You could still hear angry yelling interspersed with "Stark" coming from his hotel room. He pressed the power button and had his suit returned to him, leaving the courtroom with no official answer. "At least I went,"
Stark shrugged as he waited for his suit. He was not looking forward to giving a full report on the frustrating subject. Bum-ba-da-nay.
Thanks for watching Fanfiction Friday. We'll see you next week with another batch of fanfics that have been picked from your suggestions and from ours. Remember, if you want to have your suggestions included, please post comments in the comments section saying names of characters, locations of where they would go, and scenarios, what kind of shenanigans they would get up to. Please make sure that your suggestions are independent of each other, meaning that they don't rely on each other to have the story flow or make sense. Because, for example, if the scenario is playing blackjack in Vegas, for example, that's more of a location. You can have playing blackjack, because who knows where that could happen, but you can't have it be something that takes place in a specific location. So be vague is what I'm saying. Be really vague. Confuse us. But yeah, do leave your suggestions in the comments, and we'll try and credit you when we pick something that you suggested. Suggested. That's a word. I suggest that it is.